this bill without any reservations. And the 5 members who have opposed this bill, because only 5 members have opposed this bill since we began its debate yesterday afternoon. Honorable Speaker, listening to the contributions through from yesterday and even taking into consideration the issues that have been raised by many of the members, there are a few salient issues that have come out. One, there is a claim that there is weak oversight in this bill. And that is not only incorrect, but very misleading. Because if you read Article 206, and I want to thank my whip, because when I went to have a cup of tea, my whip did respond to Honorable Karoli Omondi on what he had raised on the constitutionality of this bill. And Honorable Speaker, it's important to mention that if any member feels any legislative proposal before this House is unconstitutional, you have every right to raise that in line with our standing orders with the Speaker at any point. And so far, Honorable Speaker, I am not aware, and I am sure had anyone brought it to your attention that there was anything unconstitutional in this bill, they would have raised it with you. And therefore, there is absolutely nothing unconstitutional with this bill. It is anchored on Article 206 of the Constitution. I agree with my whip that what Honorable Karoli Omondi was reading was very selective, because he did not read the one that creates the exception to the consolidated fund. Honorable Speaker, if he had read 206(1)(a), it says, except money that is reasonably excluded from the fund by an act of parliament. This bill is creating such act of parliament, the National Infrastructure Fund Act. It is only a bill now, pending its approval by ourselves, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, besides Article 206, Article 2294B of the Constitution grants the Auditor General the mandate to audit the accounts of all public funds, all of them. When the Auditor General audits all public funds, including the National Infrastructure Fund, should it be established upon passage of this bill, that fund shall, not may, shall be audited by the Auditor General. What does the Auditor General do with these reports? He brings those reports to the National Assembly. Therefore, your effective role of oversight is guaranteed under the Constitution and under Article 2294B through the Office of the Auditor General, unless we want now to become the morticians or the auditors ourselves, and we cannot be. Our work is to audit. That is why even our audit and oversight committees, the work they do is based on reports from the Auditor General. And we cannot, Honorable Speaker, be taking over the work of other institutions. Honorable Speaker, again, this bill has a very strong oversight mechanism. Read clause 26 of the bill. The Cabinet Secretary must submit all annual reports and audited financial statements to the National Assembly. The National Assembly is you guys, you honorable members, sorry, you honorable members who are seated here and who are debating and enacting this law.
It's good you have corrected yourself. There are no guys here.
I was very quick, Honorable Speaker. This is a problem of dealing with teenage children in your house. Even my 3-year-old daughter, my 6-year-old daughter now is calling me bro. Clause 27, Honorable Speaker, also obligates the same Cabinet Secretary to publish these accounts. If you read 27.2, even publish them on the website, and 36.1 to submit to the Auditor General the accounts of the fund, together with statements of income and expenditure for every financial year. And thereafter, as I said, in line with that, the provisions of our Constitution, it is you in the National Assembly, not even in the other house, here in the National Assembly. Honorable Speaker, the other misconception that I have had is that this is another ingenious way of borrowing. Far from the truth, Honorable Speaker. And I had time to explain to Honorable Oundo after his contribution, because I like listening to Honorable Oundo, Honorable Makali, because they base their arguments on what they have read, unlike some of us who have not read the bill and just oppose for the sake of opposing. And I explained to Honorable Oundo that this, unlike what was being said by another member who speaks too much in workshops and conferences and press conferences opposing everything government, the fund is an investment vehicle. And in fact, Honorable Oundo put it right, that this fund is looking at commercially viable projects. Commercially viable projects, and I was asking Honorable Oundo, The most clear example to all of us here is the expressway that just passes behind this house. That expressway, I would dare any one of you to show me where that expressway is in our debt books. Any one of you, because it is not there. And what happens is that the private equity holders, the people who have their own capital, who would come and invest in a project like the expressway, also do not have the 40 billion shillings they invested in that expressway. They leverage on the small capital, maybe 5 or 10 billion shillings they had, went to the financial and capital markets, raised money, invested in that project, and that project is paying for itself. Is paying for itself. That is why it is not in your debt books or in our nation's debt books. That is exactly what we intend to do with the National Infrastructure Fund. If you raise the 100 billion shillings that you raise from, or 100 and something from the Kenya Pipeline IPO, which will officially go to the market on Monday. And I hope, Honorable Speaker, that these members will support this bill, so that by Monday we have a fund, so that the people who are holding that money can put that money in this fund, so that we buttress what has been said and what the President said here during the State of the Nation address, that proceeds of privatization will be ring-fenced to go into this fund that will grow our economy in the manner that I explained yesterday, and I don't want to go back to it. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I was saying the 100 billion would raise, if we got at least 25 billion shillings out of that 100 billion of Kenya Pipeline, and a private investor or owner of capital, private capital, came with their 25 billion shillings, that combined gives us 50 billion shillings, and the government of Kenya and the other private person will have equity, shared 50-50% in the project to build the new airport at JKIA, and the project will then leverage on that capital that we own as the people of Kenya and the private investor. The private investor most likely will be somebody who has the capacity and the expertise to be able to raise money in the global and regional markets, raise money from pension funds and all other funds anywhere in the world, raise 150 billion shillings, and we have a new airport, Honorable Speaker. And I'm glad I saw yesterday the government of Kenya did advertise the construction of a new airport at JKIA. The secret or the route to getting that new airport is the passage of this National Infrastructure Fund. Honorable Speaker, I am glad that even our colleagues who have opposed this bill, they had very heavy words. Oh, it is unconstitutional, but nobody has exhibited how unconstitutional it is. Somebody said we should shred it, and because it is unamendable. That is why the people in your constituencies elected you to come and legislate. Legislation is actually not the debate we are doing now. Legislation is in committee of the whole house. If you have any credible ideas that will add value to this bill, we welcome you to file your amendments as soon as now with the office of the clerk or the table office, so that you may add value. If there's anything you feel we should subtract, and I listened to Honorable Makali Mulu, I listened to Honorable Oundo, and I heard what they said on issues like the board being able to set salaries for the staff and the chair, the board. And in fact, Honorable Speaker, if you carefully read what is in the bill, it says may. The bill, the language is may, that the cabinet secretary may determine a performance incentive for the board. May, not shall. Again, language in legislative drafting is very important. That doesn't mean that you are excluding SRC from playing their constitutional mandate in terms of public officers in service. But again, it's a matter that is open to debate, and we will welcome any amendments that may improve the language in that bill. Honorable Speaker, yesterday somebody said that the other funds we mentioned here, the Temasek in Singapore, the fund in Dubai, or even that in South Africa, or the one in Australia, that these are companies, investment companies. Yes, they are. This fund is an investment vehicle for our nation to invest in commercially viable projects or enterprises. And therefore, what I have heard, Honorable Speaker, during the debate, many people assuming that this fund will come and develop my 2 kilometers of roads. Far from it. It will go into those projects that are commercially viable, projects that can repay themselves. Then those that cannot repay themselves, like the roads Honorable Kagushi was speaking about in Mukurweini, the roads in Kikuyu, the roads in Kajiado North or Kajiado West or anywhere, any other part of the country, those now we budget for them in our budgets. And there is nothing that is coming into this fund that excludes you in your mandate from budgeting. Because again, that is the other misconception. I had somebody, I think it's Honorable Karoli Omondi, last night, who was challenging a member that you now have to be going to kneel before somebody to be able to get anything from this fund. Unless you have a commercially viable project, you don't need to kneel before anybody. Honorable Speaker, the oversight mechanisms in this bill are solid, and it is not in any way coming to dilute in any way our mandate as a House, and therefore want to urge members to contribute. Honorable Makali did mention the issue of a CEO and administrator. I agree with him, and indeed the Committee on Finance and National Planning, if you again have read their report, and I said yesterday it is important that as we debate, we also just glance through the committee's reports, because that is where we charge committees with the responsibility to go out and listen to members of the public through public participation. And I must thank the committee because they did extensive public participation around the country on this particular bill. And some of the feedback they got was on that issue of the administrator and CEO. And you will see part of the amendments in the report that the committee has proposed is to have either a CEO or an administrator, not both or either, to just have one. And I think the committee, the chair will be moving some of those amendments. Honorable Speaker, I think I have responded largely to many of the things that I saw, I had being raised by members, and any other issues that I may not have addressed, I'm certain in the committee of the whole and in the third reading we'll be able to address some of those concerns. And I want to really urge this House to support this bill. I am glad, Honorable Speaker, that even those who purported or opposed this bill, in fact, they have all stated that they do not oppose the idea of having a national infrastructure fund, because this is the future. The Honorable Speaker, if you read the intent or the objectives of the bill, I'm concluding, Honorable Speaker,
Yes, Kagushi, I want to
4D,
majority leader. Yes, Kagushi.
Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Majority Leader has continuously castigated members who are giving their opinion and contributing to debate.